We have these divine mercy pictures at the entrances of the church that say, Jesus, I trust in you. And it's very easy to trust in Jesus when things are going well, when things are all as they should be. But the question is, how about when things seem like there's no way out? It's in those moments when there seems no other choice, when it seems there's no way to get through. That's when real trust happens. That's when trust is tested. We hear in the scriptures today about two different widows. The first, this widow of Zarephath. Elijah has been out in different places where the Lord has placed him in the middle of this drought. And finally, after the stream has dried up, he says, go to Zarephath, and there is a widow there who will take care of you. And so he goes to Zarephath, and he sees this widow, and he asks her for water. And she goes to get some, and then he says, if you could bring me a little bread. And she says, I don't have anything. I just have a little oil and a little flour, and I'm going to go make a little something for my son and myself, and then after that, we're going to die, because we have no more food. And Elijah says, okay, go do that. But first, make me a little hearth cake. Then once you've done that and you've given that to me, you can have your own stuff. Because the Lord has said, the jar of flour will not grow empty, nor the thing of oil go dry. Now if someone said that to you, you got nothing left except this very little bit. Give some of it to me. God says He'll take care of you. What's your reaction going to be? Right, Father. Whatever you want to say, Father. I don't believe you, Father. And God says, but I will do this. And she trusted. She trusted even when it seemed like there was no way through, that there was nothing left. And God provided. And the jar of flour did not grow empty, and the jug of oil did not run dry. For a whole year, they ate in the midst of this drought. God took care of them. In the gospel, we hear about this other widow who's in the temple. And there are all these people putting in great amounts of money, and back then it was change money, it wasn't paper money that they had. And so this coinage money, you could actually hear as it was being dropped into the treasury. And she put in these 2 small coins. And Jesus points her out and says she gave more than anything, because she gave from her livelihood, where everyone else is giving from their surplus. She gave more than anyone else. The trust that she must have had in God, to be able to say, I want to give you, God, all that I have. And I know that you will take care of me. The law of gift, as St. John Paul II says, is one's being increases in the measure that one gives it away. Not as we hold on to it, not as we cling to it, but as we give it away in love and in trust in God. You see, these people, they're all in. We look at the saints, they did trust in God, but it didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like suddenly they just, from their birth, said, I trust in you, God. They had to grow in it. And as we have to grow in trust in God. One of my favorite saints, my confirmation saint, St. Maximilian Kolbe, you may remember him. He's the one that chose to die in the starvation bunker for another prisoner in Auschwitz during World War II. He had to grow in trust too. He had this call on his heart that he was supposed to create this magazine which would speak about God and about Mary and go throughout Poland. But he didn't have any money. He was, after all, a Franciscan, and he had taken a vow of poverty. So he went to his superiors and asked for money to be able to print this. And they said, we can't do that, we don't have the money, you can't take it from anywhere. But if you find the money, if it's given to you, then you can print it. So he had that permission, but not the permission for any money. Well, he was very much perplexed and worried and says, how am I supposed to do this? I feel like God is calling me to do this, but I don't have the money to do this. What's going to happen? And he went into the church to pray. And then he went over to the statue of Mary to plead his cause. And there at the foot of the statue, he found this envelope that said to Mary Immaculate. And he opened it up, and inside was the exact amount that he needed for the press bill. And he saw that as a sign from God that he would take care of everything. That Mary's intercession would care for everything. And so he learned to trust, so much so that later as they bought their own printing press, and then because they were making so much noise, the other friars were like, "We need you to find another place. Get out of here. We need silence for our prayer." So he looked for another place, and there was this prince who said he'd give them this land, and so they went and they put up this statue of Mary where they were going to build their friary. But then the prince said to them that they had to do something for him, and that was remember him in masses in perpetuity, whatever, forever. And so he went to his superiors and said, "I've got someone that's going to give us this land. This is the condition on it." And his superiors said, no way. No gifts with anything attached to them. It has to be free and clear. And so he went back to the prince and said, "I'm sorry, my superiors said we can't accept this gift of land with this condition." And the prince said to them, "Well, fine, you can't have the land there. And take the statue that you put up there as well." And he said, St. Maximilian says to him, "No, you keep the statue there as a monument for the only time in history when Our Lady has not come through when we prayed to her for something." Ouch. Ouch. Needless to say, the prince didn't sleep too well that night, or the next. And he went back to St. Maximilian Kolbe and says, "You can have the land, no conditions." That being said, I'm pretty sure Father Maximilian said lots of masses for him. But you see, he learned to trust, and then he put that trust in action. So much so that he knew he would never be disappointed. Our trust needs to grow as well. It's not like we have to start with perfect trust in God, but where our trust is, that's where we can start and say, "Okay, God, I want to step out in faith from here, knowing that you are going to take care of me. You'll take care of my needs, even in the worst of conditions, even when it seems there's no way out. God, I trust in you." Let us ask our Lord today for that grace of trust that the widow of Zarephath had, that the widow in the temple had, that St. Maximilian had, that we may have that trust to entrust our full lives, not just in the good times but in the bad, not just in the times when it's easy but in those times when it's hard, when we can't see a way out, to trust that God is Father, is Abba. He's watching out for us. May we have that trust that is all in.